Supporting Students During COVID-19 Pathways to Adult Success Solution Forum. I'm Bob Balfrance from the Everyone Graduates Center, and I want to welcome you here today. I hope this finds everybody still continuing to hang in there during those challenging times. And today we're going to keep our dialogue going and how we can sort of work together to support our students during this challenging time, and in particular our seniors. Amanda, if you can go to the next slide. We're very fortunate today that 3 of our learning community members have stepped up and volunteered to present what they're learning and what they're trying to do to support their students. So we're going to hear short presentations from Riverside County Office of Education, the College and Career Readiness Unit, and then the Chattanooga Public Education Foundation and the Hamilton County Department of Ed, and then finally the Denver Scholarship Fund and Denver Public Schools. What's exciting and interesting about this, if you notice, these are all multi-sector partnerships, which is a key feature of our Pathways to Adult Success work, of bringing people together to work in concert to provide the supports our youth need to succeed. After we hear from them, after each presentation, there'll be time for some Q&A to ask them questions. We'll then share some other resources we've gotten in over the past few weeks since our first forum, and then we'll end with an open session where we can have open sharing of ideas and questions. Before we begin, I just want to remind us of how we're conducting these solution forums. So next slide, Amanda. We have a large and diverse group on today from different, K-12, higher ed, nonprofits, State Department of Ed. To keep this manageable, we're asking folks that are not presenting to be on mute and to ask their questions and share their ideas via the chat function, which you should be able to find down at the bottom of the screen, or sometimes it's up on the top. And you want to make sure to send your ideas to everyone if you're trying to openly ask the question to all. If you have a resource to share, we also ask that you do it through the chat box. And at the end of this session, we'll send everything out to folks like last time if you were on, or the first time if you're not. We'll send out the chat, we'll send out the resources, we'll send out the PowerPoint and a taped version of the presentations. All right. So without further ado, Amanda, if you will take us to the next slide. I would like to introduce our friends from the College and Career Readiness Group and from Riverside County Office of Education. Take it away.
Thanks, Bob, and good morning, everyone. This is Gil Compton, and I'd like to introduce our team. We've got Dr. Pedro Caro, who's one of our coordinators that works on our team of 3 here in Riverside County, California, and of course, our executive director is Catalina Cifuentes. It's just an honor to be here, Bob. Thank you for including us, and we'll see if we can hit the mark for you this morning.
Okay, can you folks hear me?
We can.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Don't know if Catalina's gonna chime in as well, but I can just speak a little bit about this innovative Counselor on the Go webinar series that we are offering to any and all of our TK-12 school counselors, not just Riverside County, but California as a state and beyond. We have folks from Texas and even Oregon and other parts of the country joining us. These webinars stem from a need of our school counselors to get support as they move into building virtual counseling programs. And so these 1-hour webinars are offered around topics that are high need right now. They really are evolving as the needs of our counselors evolve. And so we're talking about topics that are based on data, such as setting up a virtual program from scratch, technology tools that counselors should know how to use to implement for students, how to target at-risk students still through a virtual setting. And then we're moving into now more mental health-based PD for our families and for our underserved students. So they're a really great resource. They're free of charge. Anybody can log on to view them. And if you want a link to register for the resources or even see the webinars afterwards, they are recorded so that anybody can access them whenever they'd like. The website is down there on the bottom, www.rcec.us. Or contact one of us and we can make sure that you're in as well for that.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's still morning here in California, and I would just add a little bit more to what Heather was sharing, that these are examples of some of the first topics that we approached, and I would say one of the most feedback or the greatest need we received, and what we're finding is not just school counselors are logging onto these. So if you're an administrator, if you're a district director, they're all logging in. It's kind of under that counselor lens, but still topics that are very important to, the administrators that work with school counselors as well. But we were getting a lot of questions about ethical responsibility. We had, counselors were hearing that some states, they were not allowed to work with students. And then you had our state that was asking them, people are negotiating contracts. So it's just been a different time for us. So I think these topics, like Pedro mentioned, really around getting them up and going and running now to work with our students and not waiting or the year's over, et cetera. And so it's been positive to see. We present maybe a topic or technology tools, like what are the different platforms on a Tuesday, and by the following week, we were seeing immediate action in our school districts with newsletters, making sure you post your office hours, something as simple as their email, their reply email when someone emails, we're closed, thanks, the Governor Newsom, turned into, we're closed, but this is how you find me, this is how you schedule an appointment, this is how you do this. So it was just awesome to see just they're willing to change the message to students and families, and willing to alleviate them that this is still their role. They're still working, and we just got to change the environment a little bit differently.
And Kat, can you talk a little bit about the numbers of those that zooming in to Dr. Caro's in sessions?
Sure, we actually have one coming up. Dr. Caro's going to be getting off pretty soon to jump on ours at 11, but we have over 300 scheduled today. We are getting anywhere from 300 to 700. So we're also including doing, like, we had the UC Office of the President this last Thursday. So we made sure we had the Office of the President because we had more than just Riverside County students applying to UC Riverside. So we had someone from UC Office of the President answer all admissions questions. And this Thursday, so if you're interested, please register. We have the California State University Chancellor's Office. So they come on and they do all things admissions, all questions. I have a student that is XYZ, what do you suggest? And I mean, we stay on sometimes an hour and a half just to leave there. And what we have found, it takes a lot of work on Pedro and I in terms of coordinating, especially Pedro coordinating these speakers, but the output of questions we get answered 300 to 400 to 500 at one time is very powerful. So we make them relevant. No, it's all actionable. These are real school counselors presenting, real administrators, real district directors navigating through this time, and not just, I think we should do this. It's actual, we're doing this. We're not sure if it's going to be 100% successful, but we're doing that trial. And next slide. So what we're doing, in addition to our school counselor leadership, college and career readiness information, we're also really working on supporting our advanced placement students. We're very proud. We've been working on AP enrollment and access these last 4 years, and we have 48,759 AP tests ordered. So we have a pretty large amount of students taking AP exams, but with the digital divide, we realized that so many of our students wouldn't have the technology to take the AP test. And then College Board threw a wrench at us on Wednesday and said, first it was like any device will work, and now you have to have an Android or an iOS on Wednesday to take the language tests, the Spanish or the French. So we have been working with all of our districts to ensure that 48,759 stay at that amount. And so what we're doing is we have a nonprofit in our area called Growing Inland Achievement that we're partnering with to put in for technology assistance. And we're actually in the process of renting technology for every student, a device that has 4G capability for any student that the district can't serve. So we're literally calling in teams, students that have said, oh, I'm probably not going to take it, to find out, why aren't you taking it? Is it because you don't have a device? We got you. We're going to celebrate you. You're taking your test. And so that's kind of just really helped push our AP participation, and to keep that, maintain that, the numbers that they ordered in October. We reminded students, especially if they're seniors, the UC Office of the President said, if you're a senior and you applied and you said you were going to take these 3 AP exams, you really should notify us if you're not going to anymore. So we've been using that. So a lot of just information, but I think we're very fortunate to our county superintendent, Dr. Judy White, is committed, beyond committed, one of the most committed county superintendents you will ever meet. And she says whatever it takes to make sure each one of those students has the technology and Wi-Fi. We have a lot of remote areas. So we're literally taking devices, 4G, everything to every single student. So just a little bit of information just to share there. And like I said, it's been a challenge because there's not even devices to even order right now. We're having to rent these devices, but we're doing what we do for students. And this is just a great partner, how we're using the partnerships in our area.
Okay, and the last piece that we're going to contribute this morning is a little bit about our data sharing agreement. And a lot of the projects that we work on at the county office are built around this research concept for mutual benefit for us and our 23 school districts. So we serve 23 school districts across Riverside County and about 435,000 students. But about 5 years ago, our previous superintendent was able to negotiate with the superintendents and put together memorandums of understanding to allow us to support our school districts. And so there's a boilerplate available. We can share that with the team, but just some of the lefts and rights in regards to it is really working around research questions and having to use the tools of improvement science to benefit our students' outcomes. And we have kind of a mantra that Catalina reminds us of constantly, that if you can't measure it, you don't do it. And so we really work hard on that in regards to it, that we're just not being busy. We're actually targeting and going after goals. Time frame was originally year to year, but we've now recently moved into a 3-year protocol. And the reason for that was because of the transitory nature of some of the positions. Sometimes superintendents change, sometimes internally. And so it's really important to keep that data sharing agreement across multiple years. And then the last piece of it, of course, which is fundamental, is really being sure that you have a secure file transfer. You're dealing with student information, you're dealing with young people's information. We're not just asking for information to get information, we're asking for information to answer research questions. And so it's really been able to, for us to leverage our data to be able to support student outcomes.
Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. I'm gonna I have a few comments and a question, and we'll let people build their questions in the chat box, and then we'll read those. So a couple of things that just struck me that I just want to highlight. One is this, that you're having your counselors, you created a forum where your counselors can ask questions directly of the higher ed institutions. And why that is so important, and it's a theme we're going to hear today from our other presenters, how they're figuring that out, is that we can see like this tsunami wave building, right, of higher ed worried about declining enrollments, and then kids not knowing how to get connected to higher ed. And partly that's because there's always been a divide between counselors and higher ed officials. And one could imagine that being even much more challenging in this environment. So the fact that you've been able to create a place of connection between those two groups is very powerful, because absent us doing that, so many kids are going to get lost in that shuffle of no one having accurate information about deadlines, timings, and how to do it. So I think it was just very powerful that you made that connection. And then I think the other thing that's a great example is this idea of, I love your line, Kelly, that you're taking the test. Like, we're going to figure out in a very supportive, caring way. And that's really a key part of this, of school connectivity. There's like this high expectation with support, right? And yes, it's a really hard time, but we're going to find a way. And I just want to commend also, that's a very nice modeling of that spirit. And then my one question is have you gotten, like, what kind of themes are the counselors giving back to you from what they're hearing from their students? I mean, I'm sure it's many things, but has a couple of things stood out as sort of a dominant theme that they're responding back as, and anything, but in particular in this transition from being a senior to finding a post-secondary placement?
I would say the common themes we're seeing is a lot of, and part of why we had the UC Office of the President comments, because I could give them the information, but it's like, are you sure, Catalina? Especially around the grading and the comprehensive review. It's like, okay, we're bringing the President's office here on the webinar so you could hear directly from them. It's not that they don't trust us, but they're just so uncertain right now. Everything's scary. So I think a lot of the questions we're still getting themes around admissions. It's kind of like we all knew the seniors would be taken care of in some ways, but it's the 9th and 11th graders that we're worried about. So let me give you a scenario. You have a student that has a 2.9 GPA right now, has been working really hard, is in a college access program to get straight A's, would have probably been UC eligible now because they'd hit that 3.0 by the end of the semester, but now their school went credit, no credit. And so now I'm not going to have a 3.0 because I I'm going to get credit, no credit. I'm not going to get a GPA calculation improvement. So questions to the Office of the President said, we still encourage them to apply, but now they have to kind of write why they don't have that 3.0. So I think we're getting more questions. I feel like they knew the seniors. They were most of them had been admitted already. They were on plan. Now it's more seniors getting them to there. Now they're really worried about the 9th and 11th grade, 10th and 11th graders. And then another part in terms of the seniors, a lot of questions on like, should I really send my son or daughter to Berkeley and pay that kind of money when they're just going to live at home and do online? Should I do community college instead for a semester this year? And it's like, they don't realize not every campus is going to take deferred admissions or let you postpone it or etc. So navigating that, especially for a first generation student, is college-bound student is challenging because they just think, well, I'll just go after a semester or two. And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. So I think those are our number two when it comes to college access, that I'm seeing questions on how to tell a parent that lost their job, no, you probably still should send them to UC Berkeley, but at the same time, understanding their situation. And I think that's another part of that AP testing is, you know, some of our district directors said, Kelly, we're just trying to worry about feeding them right now. We can't even think about AP. So it's like we're doing this balancing act where I'm trying not to be insensitive, but I'm thinking our team's thinking these kids already lost so much. They can't lose this too. You know, this gives them hope. So I think those are the common two things, the 9th through 11th and the 12th grade, deferring admissions. Do I even go? Should I pay that kind of money if I'm going to probably be remotely working, you know, learning from home?
Great. Thank you so much. We're going to hold the rest of our questions to the end, and I'm going to turn now to our second presenters from Hamilton County and the Chattanooga Education Fund.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon. I'm Keith, and I work at the Public Education Foundation as the Director of Research and Effectiveness. And I am the data guy, and I'm going to speed through my part so you can get to the rock stars of Hamilton County. Just to give you a context, and Gil set me up perfect for this. It's a great segue. We have that same research mindset. From a research point of view, we have 46,000 students, and they are dispersed in 5 different learning communities, but the geography really is unique here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County, southeastern Tennessee. We have mountains, ridges, valleys, you name it. The river dictates where a lot of things are and who gets what in terms of equity. So our schools here have been closed since March 16th. It's where we transitioned to online learning. I put that in quotes because of obviously, just like many places in our country, that was highly variable. The online part was, device shortage, access shortage, same challenges, even though we, many of the questions I got early on were around the fact that we're called the gig city in our promotional materials. Chattanooga has 1 gigabyte internet, and so people couldn't imagine that there were students without online access or Wi-Fi access or internet access, and there are many. So we've really, being a P16 Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation learning community, we really have been using this as a way to highlight all those challenges that were there prior to COVID-19. So I think a colleague has said before, these students weren't on track before. Many of them, it wasn't the virus that made them off track for graduation or for post-secondary transition. So we can move to the next slide. Thank you. So the way we work with the district is we're a school official, a similar MOU as to what Gil described in their situation. And we use student data and predictive dashboards. We use that in this instance, we've used it to create a lot of lists for strategic support. So we've tried to supply the best GPA, behavior and attendance information along with ACT, so our college and career advisors and our college advancement mentors have the best student level information. Because of the nature of the relationship, all we really are doing is giving the data back to them. So they allow us to see this information. They use Cognos as a data hub, and we mostly just make it more user-friendly and easier to put into practice. Match and Fit dashboard is helping us to kind of find alternate good fit opportunities for students to try to alleviate some of those concerns that we talked about with the first presentation. And then we've also just been using lists of using our since 2005, we have used National Student Clearinghouse information and partnered with the district on that. So we know where students are likely to go, and we are using that to help college advancement mentors and college and career advisors to support students in terms of knowing where others from their communities or from their schools may be. And we're also going to use that to look at MELT trends over this summer. But before we move on to Sarah and Michelle, they will not say this about themselves, but I can't give them enough praise. I'm a researcher. I am safe in my little house, crunching numbers and making lists and spreadsheets. And from day one, since before the governor of Tennessee considered this an emergency, they have been on college campuses and students' homes and dorm rooms and schools, just supporting students, very hands-on. Tennessee's a long state, and these ladies have driven up and down and side by side. So just praise to them. And I'm gonna shut up and move forward with Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Malone, and I'm the lead college and career advisor for Hamilton County for our schools. We have 17 high schools, public high schools, and 2 charter public schools that we're working with. And right now we're sitting a little heavy over 3,500 seniors that we're really trying to support. Unfortunately, we didn't have a contingency plan before COVID. Now we do. And so it was really a very quick shift in gears, as I see that a lot of people, we've just had to be very adaptable. So our advisors are considered support staff. They're not, they work alongside with the school counselors and the administrative teams, but they wear many hats. By cheerleading, by advocating, by submitting documentation, by counseling, advising, all of these things. But we immediately shifted gears. Grades were kind of thrown out the window for a moment to try and make sure that our students were taken care of. So we went into gear as far as creating school-by-school based care teams, because we were worried about getting these students fed. A lot of kids they don't eat outside of school. We have a high poverty rate within our county. There's a lot of discrepancy with socioeconomic division here in our county. So a lot of our children, without having school, they're not getting to go to a safe place during the day, and they're not getting access to the food on a regular basis. So that we shifted gears and made sure that we were trying to cover all of those children immediately with food. They put food on school buses and made bus routes accordingly. At first, they opened up the all elementary school cafeterias so that we could also keep people employed, but also to feed our adult high school students who had children. They could actually, if you have a teen mom, we were feeding them as well. So, and their babies. So that was something that was really impressive seeing here in our county, because we had to get them fed before we could worry about them doing their virtual online learning. So the virtual learning became an issue with many of our students not having devices. We were very fortunate in this year that we were moved to a one-to-one device program, so we were able to get devices, Chromebooks, into most children's hands. Well, but the issue was, with us being a gig city, there's still the divide. A lot of folks did not have access to the internet. They definitely didn't have access to 4G. We partnered with CVOs and with our electric power board, who helps run the gig city, and they were putting up mobile areas in school parking lots to try and put out more internet for students. So parents were even driving their kids to, trying to keep social distancing, but they had to get to the school to be able to download the packets for the kids to be able to do their work, to work on the virtual learning options. So that was a big shift for our entire county. We all had to come together, and we quickly saw how many were siloed in different places and how we started to integrate. It was really phenomenal to see the integration happen with the work and the nitty-gritty of it. And our advisors, our college and career advisors, we pivoted to virtual advisement as soon as we were able to get all seniors connected with affordable or free internet and the device. So we created a shared Google document posting all the changes and new key dates. So scholarship changes, every time that a deadline changed, anytime that we had other things that were being waived, it was every day there was so many changes in the college and career landscape, whether it be ACT scores being waived and testing requirements being waived, how they were going to roll out an AP test, whether we were going to be able to do ACT testing, placement testing at our local community college and our colleges of applied technology. So that was something we had to quickly engage to try and make sure we were getting the shared information to everyone. And my team, we have about, there's 25 of us spread amongst the 17 high schools. So we started meeting, we went from monthly meetings where we included training and professional development to meeting 2 times per week to address the quickly evolving college landscape. So we were trying to support our students, sharing best practices twice weekly, and then just having very open lines of communication and just sharing resources. So if someone hit a financial aid hurdle and we have a lot of new folks on our team that don't have experience in the field of college and career readiness. And so they're learning as we go, and for them to be learning in this ever-changing field, it's quite the crash course for a lot of them. But we were really quickly just trying to strengthen our team and strengthen the resource sharing as fast as we could. So contingency planning became commonplace. So once our state declared that we would not return to school buildings for the rest of our semester, we had to figure out ways to try and keep our seniors and our juniors actively engaged. So the seniors in our school system go through a lot of ritual and rite of passage as far as celebrations and awards nights and signing days, and they were missing out on all of these. So each school went to different platforms to try and change that and to try and find celebration in such a scary time. Unfortunately, our actual community was hit with a tornado. We had a spring break, and then we were hit with a tornado right after the day after Easter. And so that further complicated all the matters when it came to, now we had homeless families, we had no electricity, no internet for weeks at a time. So it was, again, shifting gears in our community, trying to say, okay, well, this isn't in my job description, but this child can't even think about AP testing right now. They have no home. So just trying to make sure we're trying to provide those celebrations and giving them hope. And most of our seniors, that is their ticket for hope, is getting into that secondary, but they're so uncertain. There's a lot of cheerleading happening, I feel like. So we've also shifted to, in addition to the celebration, but just trying to do recognition and committing to them that once we are able to lift social distancing restrictions, we're going to be able to have actual graduations. That's something that's very important to our kids, so we're trying to do that as well. Anything that would have been happening at school or during school hours, we've shifted to online, virtual college tours and fairs, financial aid sessions, college knowledge sessions, and we've done it very quickly. So it's a lot of collaboration that's really helped with our local and regional and state partners. And right now, I guess within the last 2 weeks, our district created a landing page for a class so the families and the students for the class of 2020, for parents and families could actually access the up-to-date information and resources. There's been a lot of dividing and conquering, but trying to get this information out to kids. I mean, I feel like it's old school, making those phone calls, texting individuals. Are you okay? Do you need food? Okay, now can we talk about your financial aid? You know, it's just trying to get through those physical, then the emotional and social barriers before we can actually even focus on the college and career readiness to try and provide that pathway for hope. So that's been a very quick and fast progression on what we've done as far as our response. And I'll ask you to go to the next slide for Michelle.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and I am the Director of Student Success with PEF as part of the P16 grant. And we work with actually two populations of students. So we work with our first year students who are at a community college or four-year institution, but we also work with Sarah and her team with the seniors. And so we kind of pick up where Sarah and her team sort of leaves off in terms of their responsibility with the seniors. So part of our goal is to help make sure that the students make a smooth transition from high school to college. And then we're working with them during that first year of college to make sure that they have what they need to be successful with the plan for them to return for their second year. But as all of us have had to quickly make this shift, we assisted students to move out of their residence hall, as Keith mentioned, because many of the schools said, we need you guys gone by the end of the week. And many of the students didn't have the support to do so, or their families were still working and weren't able to do so. So we rented vans and SUVs and quickly moved students out of residence halls, traveled 4.5 to 5 hours away to do that for students who are from Chattanooga, but are at Lane College. Additionally, we've had to connect students with community resources. As Sarah spoke to the internet, students have an internet access, and our company, Powerboard Company, put up hotspots, but they also offered 3 months of free service for families who did not have, access to the internet. So being able to connect students to those resources, making sure the students had the technology. Some of our students were using Chromebooks, but depending on what courses they were enrolled in, the Chromebook wasn't helpful. They needed something with Microsoft Office products. So we connected them with their institutions and made sure that we could get things of that sort. Also connecting students to online tutoring as they had to quickly shift to online learning. Those resources that they were used to being able to walk into the math center or the writing center or any type of tutoring had to shift to an online platform as well. So making sure that they didn't suffer in silence, that they still utilized those resources even though the platform had changed. In addition to that online learning, students were just confused about what does that mean? They've never had to take an online class. So what does the day look like for me? I'm used to being in class on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 10 until 1. What do I do now? So a couple of us put together some tips and sent the tips out. And I just added a slide, just a little snippet of those tips, but just helping students to understand that if you would get up at, if your class was at 10 on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, pretend that you're in class, get up, get online, and go to class at 10 o'clock. So helping them to make that transition because it's very hard for them and they just weren't used to just being in class online and connecting them to their instructors. Also encouraging them to use their campus email. Many of us know that students don't check their campus email. And so we had to really strongly encourage them to do so because that's the one way that we know for sure that they're going to get the information that they need. Prior to this pandemic, we had a student emergency fund through our partnership with the Community Foundation here. And we mostly used that to assist students with books. But thanks to that partnership and parents and our students losing jobs, we were able to quickly shift that emergency fund to start helping students and their families pay for utility bills and and rent. So we're processing those payments really week over week, just because so many of our families have lost jobs, or their hours have been significantly reduced, and they're not able to make payments on their utility bills. But we're also doing that in collaboration with some other community resources as well. And then lastly, I'll say, because of our partnership with the district and with Sarah Malone, her advisors, I have 9 mentors who work with me. They are working together to coordinate online or virtual sessions with the high schools, with the high school students, but all the top colleges and universities that we know that students from our county attend. So it's going to start out. In fact, we had a session today with our local community college, talking about registration and admissions and financial aid, and what does that look like. And the college reps shared their screen and showed students how to move through their online portal. But as the summer progresses, and we know that a lot of summer bridge programs have been suspended, summer courses are online, orientations are also online, the content of those virtual sessions will then morph into what would be in some of the summer bridge programs, such as student support, academic support. We're going to try to pull some students from that first, who just completed their first year, to do a student panel to ask, so that the high school students can ask students questions about their first year experience, and what did they feel like they should have known that they didn't know, just so that students, this is a hard time for a lot of people, and particularly our seniors, and they don't get the pomp and circumstance that they were expecting. So part of giving them hope and giving them something to look forward to, they'll have an opportunity to really connect with their schools, or whatever school of choice, and start developing a relationship with that school and with the representatives from those schools, so that the summer doesn't look as gloomy as perhaps it does right now. But that's it. We're just doing everything that we can to help support our students through this uncertain time, for many of them difficult time, but to let them know that there's a brighter future ahead.
Right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
If people have questions, please put them in the chat. Just wanted to thank you for the tremendous work you're doing as with Riverside. Just finding all the different ways to sort of keep supporting the students. It's quite a rich set of supports you're providing. And on one hand, it seems so straightforward, but I'm sure it's really hard to do, right? First, make sure they're okay, connect with them, make sure that their basic needs are met, then give them good information that's constantly changing, right? That they would have trouble accessing on their own. And then just lots of supports, and especially that idea, like you both referenced, of keeping hope, right? That there's so much shock and uncertainty, and no one really knows what the next week is going to be, us included. But imagine if you're 17 or 18 years old, and you're worried about your family. That I think that's so essential, to both combine the good information, the good supports, but also the hope. One quick question for you, Keith, is you talked about the idea of alternative good fits. Can you just give us two more sentences on what that means, or an example?
Sure. So our fit parameters are, first of all, academic. So we use one goal out of Chicago, Dr. Zander's work. We use that to determine where a student would be most successful, or we really would rather go for an overmatch than an undermatch. And then we also use personal preference, so things like distance from home. And then the final fit parameter would be cost, which for some of our gate schools is not a huge issue for students, because we do have a number of state scholarships that kick in, or last dollar scholarships. But primary fit would be academic fit based on GPA and ACT. So it would point them to colleges that fit that same academic profile, that maybe are closer, or that maybe have a better online platform.
Okay.
So we don't want them to undermatch just because they can't go
Right.
we planned.
Right. I think that's very important, right? Because they had plan A, and then you want plan B to be good and not just the most convenient, safest feeling place, even if it's not a good match. We're gonna again try to I guess we have one question I'm going to ask, then I'm going to move on to our final presentation. So I have a question for Michelle. I myself am shifting a peer mentoring program virtual. I want to know what platform you're using. Zoom, question mark?
Yes, we're using Zoom. All of our mentors have a Zoom account that we created as we all transitioned. And so that's what they're using to connect with students, but also to set up this virtual sessions with the colleges.
Great, thank you. All right, and I want to bring on our next group, our friends from Denver. It's all yours.
Thank you, everyone. It's wonderful to hear everyone's insights. And I think what Katie and I are going to talk about actually is you're going to see a lot of similarities across both programs, in particular, the team in Chattanooga. My name is Gabe Gwendon. I'm the Director of College Access for the Denver Scholarship Foundation. I've been in the college access, readiness, and success world for about 12 years. And before I pass it off to Katie, I'll talk briefly about DSF and what we do. We were founded in 2006 as a promised scholarship. Our scholarship eligibility is connected with Denver public school enrollment. And annually, we award about 5 to 6 million to around 2,000 scholars annually. I lead the college access team, and Katie and I will talk about our partnership across Denver public schools. And our college access team is comprised of 24 college advisors serving 21 different high schools across DPS and working with around 7,000 students across all grade levels with very intense college access services provided to 12th graders in those schools.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Katie Giannatasio, and I manage college access initiatives for Denver Public Schools. So just a little bit about DPS. We serve about 94,000 students. 65% of our students are on free and reduced lunch. 36% of our students are English language learners. And we have 36 high schools across the district, and with about a 70% graduation rate. Next slide, please.
So we will try to briefly provide the big picture of our partnership and how we coordinate with between DSF and Denver Public Schools, our coordination with college partners, and then finally touch base on strategies that we're seeing are really yielding results with our student outreach across all grade levels of high school. And we can move along. Before I go further, I will say I've worked in 2 other cities as well, and I think that one thing that's really special about DPS and DSF, how we work together, but also the post-secondary community in Denver and Colorado, is it's incredibly tight-knit, and we support each other in really, really effective partnership ways. MOUs are oftentimes connected with these partnerships, but the theme that I keep having occur every single day is, if in COVID times, if you had a strong partnership before, it's even stronger now. If it was important before, it's even stronger now. If communication was strong, it's even stronger now. And so that's something I feel is unique to Denver and to our secondary and post-secondary community, and something that that we're able to more effectively support students because of that. How our college access, DSF college access, and DPS partnership works on the ground is our staff are housed within the 21 different future centers, the college advisors for DSF, and literally working side by side with counselors. And so in more normal times, that means in school, working with students, supporting the development of college going culture, supporting college readiness, supporting college match and college advising conversations. And it's really a very, very organic partnership between DPS counselors and DSF college advisors. On a higher level, the partnership extends up to the DPS college and career success teams and our senior leaderships, the district superintendent and DSF senior leadership, and making sure that strategically our goals are aligned from a big picture down to the ground. And so that manifests itself in obviously strategic planning for college growth and development of college going culture. Katie and I work very closely on the development of college access, college exposure events, and also is finalized through the development of MOUs with the district, with college partners, and DSF as well. We can move on to the next slide.
So we, as Gabe mentioned, really do have strong partnerships with not just our higher ed partners here in Denver, but in the state as well. And we are really lucky to be part of the Denver Educational Access Network, which is a collective impact initiative that focuses on increasing the educational attainment and closing the achievement gap specifically for our Denver public school students. So it's really a partnership between DPS, higher ed institutions within the city of Denver and our CBOs to develop enrollment and persistent strategies. So as a district representative, I get to sit on there and really bring to the table the questions our counselors have, what supports they need, what things they're seeing with our students, and work with our college partners to make sure that we're really meeting the needs of those kids and reaching their higher ed goals. So prior to COVID, we met about once a month. We planned 2 annual trainings for counselors and college advisors. And since this, we have really been meeting every week, and I've been so impressed. And I keep joking that I've never seen education move as fast as it has in the last month and a half, but we have really heard the needs of our students and starting to develop resources and supports to get right to our kids. So through their support and collaboration, we have access to a statewide admissions tool that all of our college partners are currently updating and constantly editing, that we have shared with our counselors and advisors, that talk about everything that has changed. Who are the contacts? How do we reach out to those individuals or share that information with our students? And Gabe, I don't even know if you know this, but tomorrow we're working on a specific tool just for the Auraria campus and what resources live on, let me back up. The Auraria campus is a shared campus here in Denver. We have 3 higher ed institutions on it, and it's really in the heart of our city and really a place many of our students persist on to. And so they are creating this tool of all the resources and supports that exist right there on campus that we can get into our counselors and advisors' hands so they can share it with our families. So we have had a strong collaboration with both our admission and financial aid departments across the state. They support our counselors and advisors with workshops. They come out to a lot of our family events. And through this time, they've really stepped up and offered a lot of supports that get directly into our students' hands again. This morning, I just got a email video message from one of our local presidents on a message to seniors about not giving up hope and how they can really connect what's going on now with their higher ed aspirations. In addition, DPS has worked really hard to create a lot of strategies that help break down barriers for students in achieving their higher ed goals. So we have our DPS Red Carpet Days, which are specific orientations for our students at our local Denver area college campuses. Unfortunately, all of those in-person events have been canceled, but our partners have worked so fast and quick to get these up and running online. We had our first on Friday. We had about half the number of students that traditionally show attend. And next week, we'll have a whole week long of orientations for our students. One thing I do really want to talk about and point out that I'm excited for through this time is traditionally we host summer melt programming over the summer where we hire on our school counselors to continue outreach to our seniors and making sure they really have everything they need to be successful in the fall. So with the current climate and situations, we had to redesign how we typically run this programming. And we collect student information through senior exit surveys. We've updated that to ask exactly how students are feeling, how confident they are with their plans for the future, and what things that they would love help with over the summer. And traditionally, we've just had counselors and advisors support by regions of our city. This year, we're taking that feedback from our students and kind of making a tiered approach onto how we're supporting our kids. So any counselor can volunteer to participate in the programming. So counselors that might not have as strong background in college access, we're gonna give them just the majority of our kids, just our tier 1 students that might need a little bit of support. And then we're really gonna be focusing on our tier 2 and tier 3 students this summer and making sure that our counselors and advisors that have the most experience in college access are really helping those students through throughout this next couple of months and making sure that they have a solid plan for their future. Next slide, please.
And so finally, I'm going to share a little bit about some of the strategies that we're seeing are successful in engaging with students and some things that have changed in our approach, both for DPS counselors, but also for Denver Scholarship Foundation college advisors. One thing that I would say, just as partnership was incredibly important for the success of our team and for supporting student success and impact, that those partnerships are even more important now. The collaboration between college advisors, the level of communication between college advisors, between teachers and school administrators is more important than ever. And so our teams are working more closely to close those gaps, identifying students that are not engaging virtually and brainstorming as many ways as possible to share out that message. Our teams are also collaborating and developing a more concise communication plan. And so advisors are working with counselors to make sure that they're not duplicating efforts. That's another way in which Katie and I partner for summer melt work, is by looking at different tiers of students and then making sure that we're spreading out the effort, because there are thousands of 12th graders to serve in summer melt efforts across DPS as well. We are at DPS is not utilizing Zoom meetings, but rather Google Meets and Google Hangouts. Staff are making lots of calls home using Google Voice and video conferencing platforms as well. Within some schools, obviously the different methods of communication vary by school. And so DSF college advisors along with counselors are coordinating on what works best, but oftentimes what influences the most impactful outreach is based upon what learning platforms, online learning platforms were already available in that school. So many DPS high schools utilize Schoology, and school administrators have set up both Schoology classrooms for DSF college advisors to focus specifically on college access efforts, and also Google Classrooms, and so advisors are utilizing that platform within DPS, some DPS high schools as well. I know it's very likely everyone on here is familiar with Remind 101 or Google Voice and other texting platforms, and so obviously that's a definite effective way to do outreach. One thing that we've seen in terms of response rate, though, is that the outreach to parents has been something that is more successful than in the past. And so that's something that we've certainly, college advisors and I assume counselors are really relying on in order to gauge student engagement. And I know I started by saying if partnership was important now, it's even important, or previously it's even more important now. And I think that parent engagement and leveraging supports from family members has become even more important for the DSF College Access team in gaining buy-in and completion of those final enrollment steps that many students have yet to take care of. Our family programming is something that's always been an area of growth for our team, because engagement is very challenging when you have family members working multiple jobs or just supporting lots of different things outside of just that one specific child you're working with. And so it's been encouraging to see that sort of response and buy-in from family members. Other appropriate alternative methods that we're providing, kind of big scope sort of communication to students and family members, are the resource that Katie highlighted, the admissions and financial aid resource that's shared to all counselors and also available publicly. DSF has started a Thriving Thursdays Instagram recording that's kind of a webinar sort of focus, where we share best practices when it comes to student success with online learning, student advocacy in COVID times. And then another major resource that's been developed is focused on really addressing the hierarchy of needs. And it's kind of fascinating that that hasn't been discussed much, but there's so many different things that are pressing for families right now. And so making sure that we're supporting students, not just in college access and success and readiness, but also making sure that they have a house over a roof over their heads, that food is supplied, that they're aware of all the different resources and rental supports that are available within Denver. So developing those other resources is something that we've identified as being really critical right now.
Thank you. That's another really rich set of community-based efforts and resources, and really fantastic work that you guys are doing. A lot of lessons for everybody else. A couple of things stood out to me. I think to play off your idea of if things were strong before, they're getting stronger now. I think all three of our examples today were cases where there was already sort of cross-sector organization in place, and then people are really able to lean into that in these times. And that's, it's not easy to get there, but it just shows that the power of it, once it's there, people can lean into it. The fact that you're so networked with your institution of higher educations tied to a school district is not common nationwide. So that's a really thing we should learn. I'm eager to learn more from going forward, but just the thing that I think was then you were able to lean deeper into. And also the idea of repurposing the senior exit survey to what are your needs now, and then being nimble enough to create the summer counselors against those needs. I think it's a really nice idea to share broadly with folks, right? And bring in extra counselors to sort of fill those emerging needs. We're close to at time now, so I'm just gonna keep an eye on the questions and just wanna briefly just share a few other resources that have come in the past couple of weeks since we had our first forum. One is this, folks at Envision have worked on a virtual portfolio defense. It's a very nice toolkit for how you can make portfolios and sort of capstone projects be done virtually. And they have a very nice set of guidance in there of how they've practically done that. Next one, Amanda. Our friends at the National College Attainment Network, I think many of the folks on this call probably are well aware of them. Have put out sort of a immediate next steps for supporting seniors that many of you are actually enacting in rich detail, their ideas. The next one is maybe perhaps not widely as known, but I really recommend looking at it. It's by this group, sort of the Opportunity Network, or it's called, or something like that. And it's actually a collection of former Obama administration health officials and sort of school preparedness officials, and put together a series of steps, both now and how to reopen schools and give a roadmap. And the richest part of it is really their section on post-secondary, both what to do now and what to do next year, as we heard from our Chattanooga friends and also in Riverside and Denver, not only the seniors, but our 9th to 11th graders, and how to make sure they're sort of not knocked off track by current events. It actually has a very, for this year, a very bold idea. It proposes that for seniors, people stop instructing and just do advising. It's interesting. And our last one is our friends at SREB, Southern Regional Education Board, have put together a nice set of webinars on school counseling, and also some work with admission professionals that might be a nice regional complement to what our friends in California have put together to sort of see how different regions are approaching that. If folks have other learnings or resources to share, I really encourage you to put them in the chat box or to send them to us as a follow-up. And I'll just get to our concluding slide. Please send your thoughts or ideas to us. We're going to send out the recording, the slides, the references and materials shared. The next one of these we're going to have in a couple weeks is actually going to focus on starting to pivot towards restarting in the fall. And we're going to bring people together to talk about how to sort of not repurpose, but adjust both early warning systems and MTSS systems to help kids come back to school in the fall and have a strategy for dealing with a myriad of issues we know they're going to have, but also the fact that it's not going to be simple to predict who has what issue, and how can we sort of repurpose some of the tools we have to help us address in a sort of a strategic way, as we have many examples today, how to meet those needs of the students when they come back. So with that, I want to thank all our presenters today for their presentation, but really for the work they're doing for their communities and for their kids, and for being willing to share their ideas with us today, which were many deep ideas, but also practical things others can do, which is, you know, the golden currency right now. What can we take from somewhere and use quickly to help our kids? They all did really great in giving us that today. So I want to thank them. I want to thank everyone else who participated. I want everyone to be well, and as always, onwards. Thank you. And everybody have a good day.